If you have seen my review of the Asus ZenFone 3 Laser, you already know quite well what to expect with the Asus ZenFone 3, just on a noticeably higher level. But this phone faces at least one additional quite huge problem in my opinion, which is called the brutal competition. Because after all, the $300 to $400 market at the moment is the most extreme one you could possibly try to compete in with, and you really have to give your very best. If this phone managed to do just that, we will find out just about right now. Starting off with the design and build quality, and I gotta say one thing first. I definitely like the design and build quality a lot. It's just the size that I have a little bit of an issue with, because if you compare it here with the Asus ZenFone 3 Laser, noticeably taller and also noticeably wider. Or maybe comparing it with the Huawei Nova Plus, which after all is a direct competitor. Once again, noticeably taller and even more so wide. And it's the width here that makes it a little bit harder to be used, especially one-hand use is very hard. We have glass on the back, which is slippery for a lot of people, not so much for me, but in this case, the slippery sides were, after all, making use a little bit harder. What is great to see though is the beveled edges, the 2.5D glass on the front and back, which makes the phone feel incredibly smooth and really comfortable and great in the hand. The fingerprint reader on the back, as you can see here, works absolutely nice, no problems here at all. If we turn on the screen, you will see it works absolutely reliable. It is definitely a good one. There are better ones out there, but it still is good. Here we have the LEDs, the laser autofocus, and the camera sticking out just a bit, and also the antenna bands on the top, along with the microphone and the headphone jack. Left side is there for the SD card and SIM card tray, and on the bottom we can see the speaker, USB Type-C, and another microphone. On the right side we have the power button and the volume rocker, really nice placed in my opinion, and with great tactile and audio feedback, so really well done here. On the top we can see the capacitor buttons along with a notification LED, and obviously also quite huge bezels. A lot of people won't be the biggest fans of that, but it is what it is, and I've said it already. I like the design and build quality a lot, and if you don't have a problem with the size itself, you will definitely get very, very pleased. Same as actually for the display, because 1080p IPS 5.5 inches, it is a really lovely one. Because if we go into the settings, there is once again, as already on the ZenFone 3 Laser, the screen color mode that allows you to change the color temperature, also set it to balanced, maybe vivid if you want to, and also customize it. A little bit limited here with just hue and saturation, but as long as I get color temperature and vivid mode, I'm already absolutely set, and I'm happy with that. Maximum brightness is really great, because I used it only with 20% fixed all the time, which was more than enough for me, and even sunlight readability was really, really good. As you can see here, even this time on the video, quite stable viewing angles, absolutely well done. Once you set the color temperature to your preference, you will be pleased here as well. And the blacks, very uniform, absolutely fine here with just a normal amount of IPS glow. I gotta enter this here with the color, and I have to say colors are absolutely nice, a little bit boosted if you want to, or not if you don't, but I gotta say really nicely done. Maybe other displays on the market are just a little bit nicer calibrated, maybe a little bit more impressive, a little bit of a higher resolution, more contrast, but this one after all, fully pleasing and still very good. Now, let's head over to the sound. Okay, what do I have to say about the speaker? Okay, you have seen once you block it will sound muffled, but in normal use, even in landscape, no problems here at all. There is also the outdoor mode that pretty much just boosts the highs and makes it a little bit louder, which is okay if you need it, but of course the sound is thinner and not really recommended by me. What I have to say though is that the maximum volume already by default is absolutely more than enough. I never really had to wish for more. It was absolutely pleasing, and the sound itself was actually quite nice. Maybe not super rich or super full, but definitely nicely balanced with good mids, highs, and also the bass. Nothing more to wish for. So definitely a very solid speaker. Now the same can't be said though for the headphone jack, because that one could be noticeably louder and it could sound just better. What we get though, which is nice to see, even though it's not helping so much, is an audio wizard. For example, if you go into the music settings, you can set the volume and also boost the bass and treble, or maybe even use an equalizer. That is great, but it's the quality of the sound chip itself that could be better, and that's where I want to leave it. Now, let's switch over once again and check the performance. Let's kill off all the apps, launch a few ones, and then we will see what I gotta say. And compared to the ZenFone 3 Laser, yes, it definitely feels already noticeably snappier. There are still faster phones out there in terms of launch times, but this is already on a quite good level and nothing to be complained by me. So absolutely okay. And one thing that I like is that it is mostly lag free. What you will see though here, even in the browser, it is smooth and lag free, but it doesn't seem high frame rate smooth. And this is already what I said about the ZenFone 3 laser, and this is what I would wish for most to be improved or optimized by Asus, because I have no problems here with the snappiness. I can switch all my apps, as you can see here, very quickly, and all that is done really nicely, and it performs very, very good. And I would say it is a very good overall performer, even with the RAM. As you can see here, if we switch through the apps, there is not really any reloads. There is a 3GB version, a 4GB version, which should be even better. So in this case, it's great. I would just wish for a little bit of a higher frame rate smoothness. This is my only thing that I would wish for, because otherwise I would be absolutely satisfied. And after all, the one thing to mention though is it just can't quite compete with the Snapdragon 625 performance of the Moto Z Play, and not even quite on the Nova. There is a little bit of a difference, especially with the Moto Z, and I guess it shows pretty much that optimization is key. Gaming performance pretty much on the same level as on most 625 phones, so moderate, quite solid frame rates, almost no drops, playable at all times. For some reason, once again, my Bluetooth controller had issues. I blamed that on that, I guess, because there is a lot of issues with that one as well. But the game's absolutely playable. Heat is no issue, of course, it heats up, but the 625 is quite efficient after all and really nice. And even high demanding games are absolutely playable at all times. It is good, but there is room for improvement here after all, and this is what it is. Now, let's talk about the battery life here, and you will already see 1 hour and 55 for a full charge. Absolutely fine for the battery size. It can be done faster, but I use the default charger, so maybe if I use the quick charge 3.0 charger, it would work even faster. As you have seen though, just 9% with 20% of brightness, which I said is already very bright for 1 hour of YouTube, which is really good and one of the very best results. But this is due to the Snapdragon 625, which is a super efficient one, and you will see this in the standby range, which is very solid. And the battery life is what I would call great plus, not quite as good as on the Moto Z Play, which of course had also a bigger battery. And here are my battery estimates. I would say over the course of one day, you can get to maybe 6.5, maybe even 7 hours in mixed use, maybe more like 6 in just data use, and on Wi-Fi only you could get maybe even 8. Over the course of, I would say, 2 days, I managed like 5.5 hours in mixed use, so maybe a little like 4.5, maybe 5 on just data, and 6 plus and more should be no problem on Wi-Fi only. Definitely great plus. I'm not quite sure if I should call it even more so, because I don't really have something specific for that, but I'm definitely highly pleased, and it is definitely one of the better ones these days. Not quite as good as the 625 could be, I guess, especially with maybe a bigger battery size. Just this, but though compared to the Moto Z Play, which is pretty much the best, really great performer out there on the market. So let's take a look at the mess here, which is called Zen UI, because I still can't really get excited about it. Okay, what we get here is lock screen shortcuts. This is absolutely fine. We have quick settings, customizable ones, also nice. But as you can see, the design itself, this is already one of the nicer themes. Looks still a little bit childish and quite space unaware, because it could be a little bit more efficient in terms of that. Also, we have the launcher absolutely fine. And what I liked already a lot on the ZenFone 3 laser, that is a quite customizable one, because you can change the grid, you have gestures, and you have a lot more customization. And I would still call it one of the most customizable launchers out there, and that is nice to see. One thing that the designs or the themes won't change is the design here, which is not really necessary though, and it is okay. We have some extra features, like for example under Asus customization, recent apps key can be changed. As you can see here, there are a few more options, also like quick settings options where you can rearrange, and you have a launch game genie, and then for example, Zen Motion. Once again, I now showed this already if you have seen the review of the ZenFone 3 laser. Double tap to turn off the screen, turn it on, swipe to wake it up. We have screen off gestures, and like I said already, the audio wizard and the display options. And you can see they definitely went a little bit further and did enhance the UI and improve the things, a few things, but what they did not improve so much is the performance, and maybe make it a little bit more modern, because it looks quite outdated by these times, and it definitely looks like it could use quite some more optimization after all. And about the updates, I can't say for sure. So the software after all is one of the bigger issues of, or let's say the bigger weaknesses of this phone. Now, let's take a look at the camera here. And I have to say, once again, as on the laser, really nice selfies, because nice and sharp, detailed, exposure has been done just well, nothing to complain here, really one of the definitely better ones. Of course, indoors it gets a little bit more blurry, but it still manages to put out really good pictures. Definitely highly pleasing, absolutely satisfying, no problems here at all. This, once again, low light shot with the flash, absolutely nicely done. Without, still maintains to be quite bright, just a little bit more blurry, but not really grainy, which is nice to see. And then we have this shot, and I gotta say, low light capabilities with a steady hand, even with just moderate steady hand, absolutely well done. Nothing to complain here, really nice. Outdoors with good light, definitely the autofocus works better than on the Z3 laser. You can see quite a lot of nice details, sharp with nice background blur, good pictures, absolutely pleasing. I would definitely call it a very good camera. The overall experience is still not quite up there what it is on some other phones, because the autofocus needs sometimes tap to focus. Okay, I gotta say, quite harsh conditions when I made these shots, and it still fared very well. But there is a noticeable difference to slightly better phones out there after all. So you will get for the price a very good camera, but there are great ones out there already for just a little bit more. But still, let's take a look at the video. This is 4K, and what you will see here is, of course, a little bit lens flare, but the sun was standing really oddly, and the transition in terms of light, as you will see right now, is absolutely nice and smooth. It's not maybe crazy smooth, but it's definitely handled subtly as or enough. Still not available, one thing is the autofocus in video. I'm not quite sure why that is the case, so I had to tap to focus. A third-party app will solve that issue, but it's still quite upsetting to see. I would have expected it kind of on the ZenFone 3 laser, but I would have also expected it to be better on the higher-end phone here. Of course, since we don't have optical stabilization, we will see some shaking, but as you can see here, once you tap the focus properly, which is not the case right now, because this is a super small object, that I absolutely get that, because no other phone on this day when I tried it did get it right. But as you can see here, once it has it done, really nice, really sharp, smooth picture. Yes, we see some artifacts, and that's why I would usually just use 4K on really high-end cameras, because you will see some artifacting and some banding going on. And that's why I would personally maybe go just for 1080p, which is still absolutely fine. But if you can live with that, in an overall, it still is an absolutely pleasing camera. So no problems here, definitely knows to deliver. So nothing more to add here. I would just go ahead and talk about the pros and cons here. High build quality. I already said that I definitely like that a lot. It feels great and it feels premium in the hand, but just not small. Fingerprint reader, absolutely top. Very good display. Not the very best one out there just because of the resolution, but for its price, it's definitely one of the better ones. Not still best ones. In this price range, you still get something that is a little bit better, like for example the Huawei Nova Plus. A very solid speaker. Like I said, no complaints at all. Loud enough, rich enough, satisfying enough, absolutely. Very good performance. Why the very is in bracket is because what you will see on the negative sides, the slightly blurry, low frame rates, scrolling. This is just something that usually personally bugs me. Yeah, great plus battery life, nothing to add here, an overall good camera. Now let's get to the negative sides, wide and unwieldy. This is kind of my main problem, and this is the first thing everyone noticed when I gave it in his hands. She said, wow, this is like super wide, and something like a OnePlus One, which is like more than 2 years old by now, is noticeably more compact with the same battery size. And this is a little bit odd to see, because they can do it better, like they've proven on the ZenFone 3 laser. So a little bit harder to get. Slippery, especially the sides, which makes it a very slippery phone in general, with a case that can be solved. Average headphone jack, nothing to say here otherwise. I want more here, but not from this phone, but from a lot of phones more out there. It is what it is. Blurry and low frames per second scrolling. This is kind of what just lets me say it's very good to maybe good better performance, because it is smooth, it is mostly lag free, but it just is not something close to a level like a Moto Z Play, which was like a flagship. It was a flagship in terms of performance, so the chip can do it, and it shows this once again on the Huawei Nova Plus. So optimization is needed, and yes, as I said, the Snapdragon 625 can do better. Negative side also Zen UI. It's not pretty, and it has actually quite some nice features, but optimization and the design could be highly improved. No video autofocus, not out of the box at least. Something that is odd to see, but is still. And the biggest problem, faces stronger competition. And this is already where I want to get to my conclusion. Is it worth the price? I've showed it here in the US. I've seen price of around 330. And yes, it's definitely worth it. Absolutely no problem here at all. But if you just get a little bit higher, maybe like something, and in different regions you can get already the Huawei Nova Plus for that price, the Moto Z Play, or even a OnePlus 3, where it's a little bit close because here the ZenFone 3 is a little bit more expensive, or even the X and 7, and those just know to deliver on a higher end level. They just offer sometimes the better camera, the display, maybe the build, the design, smaller compact feel, and overall the phone itself doesn't make much wrong. And if you've seen the negative sides, very subjective and minor things to nag about, but the competition just do things same or even better, and that is this problem. So if you find it for a reasonably or more noticeably price difference where this one is cheaper, no problem, get it. You can get it, and you will still get an absolutely fine experience. But the problem is that you can get something noticeably better for not all that much more money. This is where I have to leave it. And yeah, I hope this video was helpful. Thumbs up, maybe subscribe, and maybe questions and comments down there below. But other than that, I wish you a nice day, and until next time, bye.